Hello, FPL managers, and welcome to the show. Today I have Miss with me from Australia. We're going to talk about his FPL history and his view on the game. Welcome, Miss. How are you, my friend?
Good, good. Thank you. Really appreciate you inviting me to your TV channel. Thanks, Oscar.
Yeah. It's funny to see how this developed because it was just like a tweet I saw you, and then it developed from there. We were talking about Ryan Babel, and we were in a bit of an agreement that he will be a fun player to watch. And yeah, 3 days later, you're on the show, so it's a nice kind of flow of coincidences. And yeah, just grab the opportunity. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. This is the beauty about social media. You can tweet about something and someone will notice it, and then before you know, you're in their YouTube channel and you're doing a bit of a show with them. So it's fantastic.
Awesome. Before we dive into like FPL, is there anything you want to say about yourself that you want the audience to know, like interests or your occupation or anything?
Sure. I'm a full-time worker. I work as a business analyst in the financial sector. Love tweeting. Love talking about Chelsea. That's my club. And fantasy football is also part of my life as well. And my cousins, my brothers, we always every day talk about fantasy football. So it's part of our life as well now.
Cool. You're actually my second guest on the show, and amazingly, you're the second Chelsea fan to star. I guess I get along with you guys well. Uh, it's like the zodiac signs. They say you shouldn't be in a relationship with someone the same sign, but there are like signs that work together. So it's like the teams. I don't know, because you said also that wow, it's a Spurs fan. How come we get along so well? I don't know,
Exactly.
but
I mean,
yeah,
generally with Spurs fans, there's a lot of banter in social media, and people don't get along well. So I was pleasantly surprised that wow, I'm actually having a pretty good conversation with this guy. Um, so all Spurs fans are bad or whatever. That's Oscar's the example. Check him out.
cool. What your love for Chelsea and FPL? How did it grow and start?
So since I was a little kid, maybe I probably started watching the Premier League when I was around 11, 12 years old. I'm 33 now, so I remember some of my very, very first games were, Chelsea, Newcastle, or Chelsea versus Liverpool, or Chelsea versus Man United, and I just fell in love with some of the players we used to have back then. Zola, people like Dennis Wise. So yeah, like it was fantastic to see some of these players play for us back then, and that's how the love grew. And obviously, um, as I grew up, Abramovich took over, and a lot of the things started to change for us. And I guess the love for fantasy Premier League started similarly as well as a youngster. A lot of my cousins and my younger brother, we got into it, and once we got into it, we enjoyed how there was all these points, and then you didn't have to follow just your team; you could follow players from other teams as well, and that was exciting about fantasy football, where you know you didn't hate everyone; you could like individual players from other clubs as well. So that was a nice thing.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. So do you play the game mostly for fun, or have you become more and more competitive?
Yeah, so probably in the last um, 2 to 3 seasons, it's become more competitive. Before that, it was more fun. Last couple of seasons, all people play with, we try and come up with strategical ideas as to, how to challenge in fantasy Premier League. What are the players to go for? Looking at trends. So it's become more competitive competitive in the last years. Before that, it was just fun. Now it's a bit of a full-time job now, so it's good.
Cool. Yeah, I recognize that. I feel it a little bit myself. But so, what's your goal for this season? Do you want to win the mini league, or do you have like an overall ranking goal?
Well, at the moment, I think I'm about 1.2 million in ranking. Yeah, look, I'm pretty sure I'm ranked around, yeah, overall 1.2 million. It'd be good if I can get into the top million. That would be a good finish, I think, for me. But yeah, all my mini leagues, uh, if I can come into the top three, it's been a while since I won a mini league as well. So I know there's still half a season left, so we still have time to win. So
Yeah,
yeah,
good
that's
point.
my goal.
Yeah. So do you do any research to be able to like improve yourself on the game, or do you watch
Yeah,
some shows or media?
I used to watch a lot of the Fantasy Premier League videos, but sometimes I feel those videos are just not enough. You need to do more research. So the research that that I was doing in the initial part of the season was I was trying to look for top six teams, the players from top six teams. Generally, players from top six teams, have most clean sheets. They have more goals they score. So I try to pick players from there. Um, but as the season grew, I realized obviously top six teams players are quite expensive. And if you have players like Fernandinho or Kante, um, they might not perform week in week out in your midfield. So you're better to choose maybe other players from other teams like Fulham, Chola, or you've got Watford, Pereira. You've got Leicester City, Madison. So the idea of having players on the top six, I've quickly changed that strategy, and now I've got a mixed team, and I'm looking to use my wild card. Really looking to mix things up today.
Cool. So who are you looking to get in for your wild card? Who is it that you miss right now?
Well, I feel like it's been too long not having Salah. He's been scoring a lot of points in recent times, and captaincy is a massive issue for me. I keep missing and choosing the right captain. So last week I brought in Hazard. And this week, I want to include Salah. But to bring Salah, I have to remove a lot of my players because he is worth a lot of money. So Salah and Hazard will be my main players who I will change captaincy with in different weeks. And then I'll have other players around him to basically help out. I'm looking into purchase Rashford as well from Man United. He's in good form. Um, and I'm looking to buy some cheeky little players like Delafeu. I think he's at 5.5, plays for Watford and starts as well. So yeah, I've got some interesting picks to choose for this week.
Cool. Regarding your track record, season history, it depends. Maybe you don't even want to share your like history, but that's the thing I wanted to share, if that's
No,
okay.
no, no, absolutely, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm sharing my bank account.
Well, someone might think it's similar.
Some may even think it's more dangerous to share fantasy history.
Yeah, it tells you a lot about the person. You want to say anything about like the seasons you did well in? Do you have any like advice, or did you gain some knowledge from the good and bad seasons that you want to share? Maybe.
Sure. Maybe a few seasons ago, in one of my private leagues, it's called Premiership Gurus, and I came first. I think 2 seasons in a row, and I remember the trend I had there. I think not one getting the team right quite early. Sticking with the players that generally do well and just having them there. And then basically consistency, really. If you have a team from the beginning that generally plays well, like, you know, if for example, in this season, if you had Hazard and Salah from the beginning, you know, you'd be doing, most teams would be doing very, very well. But if you didn't have Salah and Hazard from the beginning, then you'd be missing out on a lot of points. And similarly with Sane as well. Sane did very, very well this season. And, you know, if you missed out on the string of the good performance, you know, then you'd struggle. So my tip would be is to pick out the players that are doing well and put them into your team ASAP, and then stick with them.
Okay, so do you like to have patience, or do you like to take a lot of hits?
I would say the idea would be to have patience, but if if you see that, you know, 2 to 3 weeks you're not performing, or even 4 weeks, so give it 1 month, and you see that you're not performing well, I think it's going to change. Just like in the Premier League, you know how big teams, they just change managers as soon as they do not perform well. Similarly, you have to do the same thing here as well.
Okay, cool. And you live in Australia. Is it hard to handle the time difference?
Yeah, that does get very tough. So last week, I think the early game for us is at 11:30 p.m. So that's quite late as it is. By the time that finishes, you have to wait another half an hour for the next, 2 a.m. matches. So sometimes I get to watch. Well, most times I'll watch the 11:30 match, the early match, and then sometimes I get to watch the 2 a.m. match. But the 4:30 in the morning, that becomes a bit too much. Unless I don't watch the first two, then I can wake up in the morning and watch the 4:30 match. But if I'm watching the first two, then there is no way I'm watching the 4:30 match. I'm off to bed.
No, even if Chelsea is playing the 4:30 game.
Last week, Chelsea was playing Newcastle, and I was desperately trying my best to stay up and watch, because I watched the 11:30, the 2 a.m., and Chelsea was the 4:30, and my eyes was just giving up. So I went to bed. I woke up, I think, 3, 4 hours later, and I didn't check the social media. I didn't check anything, and I quickly went and saw the full game, and pretended I was watching it live. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that was
cool.
good.
Cool. But do you feel like you have a disadvantage that you don't get to see all the games in a row, like guys who live in England?
Absolutely. I think, you know, one of the classic example is one of my cousin, one of my relatives that live in London. You know, they get to watch the match obviously on normal time, and they get to watch a lot more matches than me. And he generally has some really, really nice cheeky picks, and it's because he scouts. He watches a lot of the matches, and it's good time for him. Whereas me, I'm limited to maybe 1 or 2 games during the weekend, or maximum 3 games during the weekend, and I feel like, you know, I don't get to watch enough games live, and I think it makes a big difference. Yes, you can go and watch some highlights, but watching the match live, it's a big advantage to have.
So do you have you figured out a way to like decrease the gap, like that disadvantage? Do you look at numbers, or uh, as you said, do you rewatch many games?
Yes. So one of the things that I try and do to decrease the gap is, you know, I look at what the opposition has, like what type of players they have, and I try and basically, you know, I don't try and replicate his picks. I try and see where I can get something, someone interesting that the opposition doesn't have, and then basically follow that team. So say for example, you know, the opposition who's in front of me doesn't have, let's say, Roberto Pereira from Watford. So before I pick Roberto Pereira, I'd watch a few Watford games to see, you know, how his form is and what he's, you know, what he's up to in the games. And then if I see that, yep, that's worth taking, then I'll pick him. as my basically the difference maker against the opposition. So yeah, that's one of the strategies that I use sometimes.
That's cool. Okay. About transfers, do you, because there's like you could do this strategy which I like to do. It's like taking early transfers because you can see the players probably gonna rise in price, and then you'll have a better, a higher team value. Do you work like that, or do you like to like collect all the information from the press conferences and then make a late decision?
Um, so it's a mixture for me. Sometimes when I feel that, for example, Marcus Rashford was one that I've been tracking for the past 2 to 3 weeks, and he's been doing very well. And my intention was start of this week to as soon as Man United finished their game last week, I thought I was going to pick Rashford straight away because I didn't want his price to go up. But I didn't get around doing it because obviously I'm going to do my wild card. So I thought I'll wait to do early transfers. But yeah, sometimes I mix it up. Sometimes when I see that a player is doing well, I do an early transfer so the price doesn't go up. Sometimes I'll wait for the press conference, or I'll wait later down the week to see, just in case there's no injuries. And also, if there's any extra fixtures that are coming up in the future, you have to be very careful about rotations. Some players will get rotated. So you have to be very mindful about these sort of things. Especially in the month of December and January, a lot of rotations happen. So you have to be very careful before you do an early transfer.
Yeah, and any before we quit, is there any like team that you struggled with, the players in the team that just seems to troll you this season?
um, I feel like I've missed out on a lot of Manchester City, players. I sometimes have Sane, and then I don't have Sterling, and Sterling does well, and then I'll have Sterling and Sane does well. Sometimes I have both Sterling and Sane, then David Silva and Bernardo Silva does well, and I'm like, man, this is not fair. Like, they always score 2, 3, 4 goals, and I never seem to capitalize.
Cool. So that's gonna wrap it up, this video. Thanks so much for joining the show and for waking up that early
Yeah.
at your in Sydney. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
talking.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Really, really enjoyed being part of your show. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.